All right, good people. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day down here, man. Beautiful day. Um, I'm gonna do an episode of the Optimistic Nick Fan, and shout out to my brother GoCast Podcast. Hope you're having a good time down there. I see. I thought you'd be radio silent, but I see you got Wi-Fi, so you been kicking in, man. Shout out to CW, man. He's a trooper, bro. Um, he tagged me. He pretty much mentioned me in his last video with about LeBron James' swan song, and we'll see if that happens. But I want to speak about what I saw yesterday on Knicks Fan TV. Um, and shout out to CP at Knicks Fan CP at Knicks Fan TV. Um, that was a hell of they did a first worst take segment, but it turned out that the guy that they was, the worst take segment was actually a best take. It was really, shout out to my man B Diddy, BD, um, really putting in the word perfectly what I've been saying about the Knicks and Jalen Brunson. And this is this is the Optimistic Knicks fan. This is going to be episode 33, I believe. Shout out to the big fella, Patrick Ewing. And we're going to talk about, what BD said about Jalen Brunson, and he was spot on. Spot on. We'll keep this short because can't out the phone line. But, he was spot on about Jalen Brunson over dribbling and the way they use him. I was on this the whole season. I knew it would be one of the things that would help, would hurt the Knicks from winning a championship. And I really feel that the Knicks had a real chance of winning the championship. You're going to say, we should have beaten the Pacers, and we definitely would have had a chance to beat OKC. Real talk. I mean, it was why Tibbs had to go. It was why, when you want to ask me about the Knicks and the success, this was the first we got in 25 years. I mean, come on, look. I was a Knicks fan in 2000. I was a 21-year-old young man. I remember that season again. I was not a kid. And I remember, the Knicks could have gotten to the finals. We lost to a game Pacers team, a Pacers team that added a guy in Jalen Rose, who gave them another scoring option. That was Ewing's last swan song. Ewing was not great, but he was still good enough to be in that back line with Marcus Camby, passing the torch off to the younger Knicks. But after that, the Knicks just, losing Ewing, losing Van Gundy soon after that. That was pretty much the delve into the Knicks. And so when Thibodeau came to coach the Knicks, he brought back a staple that made the Knicks of the 90s, and that's defense. And shout out to him, he turned the Knicks around very quickly. The first year, really getting Derrick Rose to solidify the bench and the offense, to give the Knicks that extra creator. Remember, we had Julius Randle the year before with David Fizdale and eventually Mike Miller's, and that unfortunate lockout shortened season. But you just saw the difference between the David Fizdale and even Mike Miller type. Mike Miller could have done a decent job had he been given a chance. I mean, he was given the Knicks, interim job the same year as the eventual coach of the OKC's championship team, Mark Daigneault, in a similar situation where he's G League coach that gets promoted to the everyday coach. I think he was the interim coach. I'm not sure about the Daigneault hiring. But either way, when Billy Donovan stepped down, this was the guy that Billy Donovan brought with him from the University of Florida, I believe. Right? So anyway, I'm not going to get into the long short of it. Thibodeau did a really good job in the 5 years. But my issue with Thibodeau is now when the Knicks traded for Karl Anthony Towns, I'm not saying Karl Anthony Towns is all world. I'm not saying he is in my top 15 players. If you go back and look at my 100 lists. And I'm going to have some good things coming up on the channel. some good ideas. I really want to get, after I finish the Legacy series, I want to pivot over into the my GOAT process, because I'm really been thinking about that. And again, I know I have mentally what my GOAT process is, but we'll get into that later, because it's a Knicks Fan TV. I mean, this is Optimus and Knicks. But yeah, Baron Davis pretty much put into terms what the problem was when it came to Tom Thibodeau coaching the Knicks. And again, it was a fair criticism on Brunson, but Brunson being the point guard. I mean, when you're the point guard of the team and you're used in a certain way, what can you do? Like, that's the way they were used, and really everything's running through him. But he's the leading scorer and point guard. I think people think we don't get it in this day and age, right? The point guard is never really supposed to be the leading scorer. The point guard, really, a job for the point guard is to set the table, and that was kind of the problem. Your point guard can be your leading scorer, and that happens more often than not in this day and age. Well, it happens a lot more than it had before. I will say that. But if that's the case, then you need secondary ball handlers. A shout out to Melo for saying the Knicks need a Nembhard. See, Melo, man, I'm telling you, man, you Knicks fans who didn't appreciate Melo. Melo had a better mind for the game than people realize. Again, the issue was the Knicks didn't break. If Melo had good guard play, the Knicks were probably going to win in his whole career. If they had great guards, the Knicks, Melo's teams would win. When they had Chauncey, they got to the first they got. And I'm talking, look, Iverson, they had a nice little run there. The Andre Miller, again, young team, able to come up. Andre Miller's a great player, very good player. It stops short of saying great. But the Knicks, again, when we got to the Knicks, you got Mike D'Antoni as the coach, and you got Tony Douglas. He came with Billups. Billups, at that point in his life, point of his career, was getting hurt a lot. So, but at the end of the day, but Melo understood the Knicks needed that second. That's the difference between between Indy and the Knicks. If they had a secondary point guard on the floor starting at two guard. And if you guys look at Indiana, I'm going to predict this. Nembhard will probably be more of the everyday point guard. And they'll try to pivot to and bring Mathurin into the starting lineup. I guarantee you that that's probably how they're going to go. Now, again, Nembhard is not the everyday one that Halliburton is. Of course, with T.J. McConnell still there, they're going to work him into a six-man, seventh-man role. Obi Toppin is going to probably be the sixth man. Indiana probably better than you think. But obviously, without Halliburton, they're missing they're missing their main quarterback. I have my issues with Halliburton in closing games, even though he closed a few games pretty spectacularly in the playoff run, in the finals run. Again, they get all the way to Game 7 of the finals. Really unexpectedly, I expected OKC to win that series pretty easily. But again, but yeah, this is what the Knicks need. And right now, it seems like the guy is Jordan Clarkson. And I really thank God. We fired Thibodeau. No, again, Thibodeau, great job, but you were not the guy to get it done. You're not imaginative enough. That's my issue. You're not imaginative enough. You coach like it's still the 90s, where it's a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. And yeah, you can go smaller. Yeah, you can play three guards, but you still look at it as if everybody is playing one position. And we've gotten to the era of multiple type of lineups, 4-guard alignment, 4 guards in a big, 3 wings. We've gone to a lot of these different sets. It's like you're still running base 4-3 defense in football when I know people criticize me for using analogies with other sports, but sports is sports, But it's like you're using a base 4-3 when everybody else is mixing it up, and that's the problem. When you get adjusted to, when the Knicks get adjusted to it, Baron Davis hit this right on the nail. When the Knicks get adjusted to, there's no adjustment. That's what I've said. I said this for the last 2 years. This is what, again, when the Knicks get adjusted to, Thibodeau doesn't make a readjustment. And it hurts you in playoff series. The reason why the Knicks lost 4 playoff series with home court advantage in the Thibodeau era. I don't expect that out of Mike Brown. Again, is Mike Brown a perfect coach? No, he is not. But I believe Mike Brown is a coach that has it's like, and I'm not calling him Pat Riley, but Riley adjusted to what he had. He coached Showtime because he had a Showtime team in the Lakers. He came to the Knicks. There's no run up and down point guard. So we're gonna play grindhouse basketball. It was Mark Jackson, but even Mark Jackson is more of a half court point guard than And then they only had Mark Jackson in 1 year because they traded him. So with Doc Rivers, Derek Harper, and eventually that same team went over to Jeff Van Gundy. He adapted, and then when he went to the Heat, he basically built a model that's similar to the Knicks. They got Tim Hardaway. Okay, cool. Tim Hardaway was, after the ACL tear, was not the same guy. He wasn't the same, he wasn't the Runs DMC fast break type that he was with Nelson in Golden State. So again, you play to what you have. I don't think Thibodeau did that. Thibodeau had a more up-tempo team and didn't play to that style. He didn't play to maximize the offensive player. There wasn't no real good two-man set. Karl Anthony Towns, while having a great season under Thibodeau, because Thibodeau will bring out that in him, and I think Mike Brown will continue that. That's why the Mike Brown signing was good. Did more. We'll do that more. He won't just coach one way. And that one way, that one style of coaching, it's just not like, you gotta understand that the league is a league of adjusting and adjustments. So, props to Baron Davis for putting it exactly the way I would have put it. I kind of struggled like verbalizing it. Baron Davis, this is why Baron, I know you hang out with that clown Draymond Green. Draymond Green probably is a good basketball mind, but he's a little too goofy. He's a little too full of himself for, to really, really give effective content like that. Baron Davis should be on your ESPNs. He should be on your NBCs. He understands the game. He's a true point guard. For a guy who dunked on everybody, he also knew how to run the fucking position. Pardon my French, but I say that because there's a lot of point guards who don't know how to run the position, man. There's a lot of point guards who don't know how to run the position. And, that being what it is, we go forward. Again, the Knicks will be a contender next year. Shout out to them for re-signing Bridges. But the Knicks will be a contender. The Knicks will be one of the, with the East being, perceived as weak, but wide open. Really, really is Cleveland, and the Knicks feel that Cleveland is beneath us. I know Jalen Brunson and them do not sweat Cleveland, because you got Brunson pretty much owning Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs since going back to Dallas with Utah. When Mitchell was in Utah, and the Knicks, beat the same roster pretty much for the most part in 5. The Knicks have gotten better. They've gotten a better cast of characters here. We probably still miss Hartenstein, but at the end of the day, if Mitchell Robinson is healthy, and that's the key. If Mitchell Robinson's playing at a DPOY type candidate level, the Knicks will be really, really good. you know, and I'm gonna finish watching that video I was watching about them. You know, I've been watching a bunch of content. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. The Knicks, you know, shout out to B Diddy. It's good to know that they're good basketball minds who understand the game and can see and make good talking points like that. It's not all this zesty nonsense that's out here, man. So I'm gonna end on that. Have a peace.